career paths. Something I don't necessarily truly understand, and I wish I did understand, but it might take me a long time to eventually get to the point where I do. Not too long ago, someone told me they might be a dentist because of the fact it pays well, and to that, I was very confused. I've never really been one of the thought process of picking a job depends upon how much it pays you. The only reason I would even take in such circumstances as pay into what field of career I choose has entirely to do with whether or not I could feed my family, and really nothing else. I don't truly understand where that thought process comes from. It just baffles me from time to time that there are people who don't know what they want to do and then end up picking something that they don't really believe in because of the fact it pays well. I don't really understand that, and I wish I did. I wish I could. Being a doctor to me would be considered a fallback career. It would be a career you go into if all else fails. My art career isn't picking off, and my paintings aren't being sold, well, I might as well become a doctor then. It's a much more stable field than others, and you can still express yourself. You can still have a goal to work towards. There's no such thing as a perfect doctor. There's no such thing as the best doctor ever. There's just doctors and better doctors, and you can continuously improve in that career path. No matter how you do, no matter what you're doing, you can always improve. With that, being a doctor is not easy. I wouldn't want to be a doctor. Just the fact that life is in your hands, and if you mess up, someone somewhere could die. That's terrifying. And no matter who you are, if you're a doctor, somehow, some way, you're going to end up in a place where someone's life is in your hands, and that life might not make it, and that's terrifying. I commend anyone who can do that. But choosing a career strictly based off of income still doesn't make sense. Unless your goal in life is to make as much money as possible, I don't see why you would do that. This is a very hard subject for me to talk about because it kind of goes along with two things that I consider to be two of the biggest tragedies in our world. And those two things would be the plight of intelligence and the plight of circumstance. I call them plights, but I've never really given a name to them before. The name of not having common sense, not understanding the world around you, being caught in a bubble, just looking at what the world has to offer and not seeing it, and just seeing a world different from necessarily the world you or I see. That is to say, everyone kind of is in that state. I remember when I was in a state where the world of possibility was, I couldn't see it. I lived in the world I lived in, and there was nothing else. There's no greater world out there. There was no bigger thing. There's no great mountain to overcome. There was no more meaning to the world than what I already seen of the meaning of the world. And that's a scary thing, because, well, comparing that world to the world I am in now, they're not comparable. I couldn't live a life like that. I couldn't go back to living a life inside that bubble thinking the world of the way I did. I couldn't do that. I literally could not live a life that way. And I think about all the people who still see the world through the same lens of this is how the world is, and there's nothing more to it. When everything in life has so much to offer, there's so many great things to find. The smallest of small things can bring so much meaning and so much impact to life that it's unbelievable. Just looking out your door can bring so much more impact and meaning to just everything you do than it can in other circumstances, other circles, depending on how you look at it and depending on your perception of the world. And that's terrifying. And I honestly think choosing a career path and not knowing what you want to do and not really understanding what you can do with your life and not really understanding what there is to life has a lot to do with that worldview, is not seeing the world through the same eyes, not seeing the world as this magical place, not seeing the same world as someone else does. And that, it's very hard to put into words what I mean, because I only really dealt with that for a very short time when I was in elementary school, where I didn't really comprehend the world around me in the same way. But going through high school, middle school, anything like that, I see people who just have no understanding and no bearing on the world around them. They just think, oh no, Billy didn't ask me to prom, my life is over, BT Dub slit my wrist, oh no. I cannot comprehend that. I cannot comprehend that all you see in life is the mundane is I go to a friend's house and talk to them about unimportant things and then I'm done for the day. I cannot even begin to understand something like that. Even in college, I would think that most people would be there for an idea or a goal or something, but it's full of people who know that there's something off, who know there's something more, that know there's something missing, but they don't really know what, and they don't really see things as clearly, and it's terrifying. It is honestly just strictly terrifying that there are things out there like this that can happen, that there are people who just don't really have any understanding of some of the things that life has to offer, and some things I can see with ease, that some things other people see with ease. And I understand completely that I'm sure there are many layers of the world that I have yet to even comprehend. And over the years, I'll see so much more, and I'll think back to this time and think, how could I even live life that way? How could I ever have pulled that off? That was such a miserable existence. And I will be right, but also be wrong, because right now, I don't see anything wrong with what's happening. I'm living life to its fullest the way I know how to in the world I see, in my perception of reality. And I think that's all anyone can do, but what happens when your perception of reality is not as broad as other people's perception of reality? What happens when living the life to your fullest is not even as half as full as someone else's fullest, just because of your perception of the world around you? What does that leave? How do you fix that? How is that a thing to comprehend? And I feel like choosing a career path is that stepping stone, is that you know what you want to do, you know what the world is, and you know your impact on it. I feel like everyone, for the most part, knows what they want to do. They already know what job they would want to do. They already know what career path they want to strive towards. And I feel like everyone can find it, can figure out what that path is if they just think for a while, if they just look at what they enjoy doing, look at what brings them joy, what is the thing they enjoy doing above all else. There are people that just say, I honestly hate everything. I don't like going to school. I don't really like hanging out with my friends. I don't really enjoy any of these things, but I love playing this sport. I could play this sport all day and I would be happy, but I can't do that. I have to get a job. I have to go to school. I have to do all this. And I say to them, if I ever in this situation, I say to them, why can't you? Why can't you play that sport all day? Why can't you only spend time playing that sport? Do you know how much time professional athletes spend playing their sport? Upwards of 8 hours a day. Of course, they're working out and doing other things, but you could just play that sport. If you don't like working out, if you don't like going to the gym, you could just play that sport, and that's the only thing you do. I don't see the problem. I don't see what's wrong there. Why can't you do that? I honestly can't see why. It's such a foreign concept of, I don't understand. I don't even begin to comprehend. Like, if you want to do that, why don't you do that? I mean, yes, this has a lot to do with my own personal opinions on the world and my views, and this is one of the only subjects that is affected by my opinions on things, because I don't have opinions when it comes to religion or politics. I'm a agnostic theist, and that is something that is hard to comprehend by any stretch of the imagination. I question everything, I accept everything, and I just all around say things are okay, but none of that affects anything besides my one belief that I really have, which is life isn't hard, we're just bad at it. I mean, that sounds like a cool saying and all, but it's something I truly believe. I believe that life isn't that hard of a thing, we're just all terrible at it. And, you know, that doesn't sound that bad, but to certain people that could sound terrible, and I understand that. It's just that when someone says, I wish I could do this, and they can, there is nothing holding them back. They're a perfectly healthy human being living in America with money. They could get a job that could support them financially completely, that could get them through school without having to dedicate too much time to it, and still dedicate enough time to whatever it is they want to do. Like, just going back to the sports example, if you want to just play sports, what you have to do is go to school, get done with school, go play your sport, practice, work out, train for the next 8 hours, then go to sleep. That simple. There's not more to it. There is more to it, of course, but that more is more of how you train, what being good at, knowing exactly what you have to do. But there's enough people out there. There's enough people you can talk to. There's enough help you can find. We live in the age of the internet. You could go to the library and get up a book about sports legends and what they did to become professional sports players. You can do all of that. And you can eventually figure out what you have to do. You just have to try. You just have to go for it. And I don't understand the not even attempting to go for it. And some people say, well, talent, like this person over here is 10 times my skill level when it comes to sports. How they have far more of a chance to make it than I do. But to you, I say, okay, they're 10 times better than you. And you're like 1% of the way to being a professional. Doesn't that only make them 10% of a professional? Doesn't that mean they have 90% of the way to go? And let's say you get 90% the way there, and you were just 10% off, and if I only had that talent, I would have made it there. You got the 90% there. What's stopping you from getting 10 more percent? It's far easier to get 10% than it is to get 90%. It's one of those things that is a very, very, very idealistic way of looking at it, but I'm talking about the normal person. I'm talking about the person without anything holding back. Why don't they go for what they want to do? If your dream, if your favorite thing to do in life, if your absolute favorite thing in life is something like knitting, then become a professional knitter. Knit all day long. Open up a knitting company. You don't even have to open up a knitting company. Open up a knitting website and sell your stuff online through all different Amazon, other things. Just figure it out. We live in an age where you can do anything and make money. There's people who make a living opening up toys on YouTube. If your favorite thing in the world is opening up a new toy and then throwing that toy out and that's it, then you can do that for a living. You just have to work hard. You just have to try for it. You just have to try and never, ever stop. You just have to go and keep going, and no matter what happens, keep trying harder and harder. And if you don't know what you want to do, if you have no idea at all what thing brings you the most joy, you just have to look back at what you've already done. What already brings you joy? What do you already enjoy? You might say, well, I kind of want to go into a career into this, but I don't really know why. And you might say, I don't even know if I really want to do this. Well, think really hard about why you want to do that. I used to think I wanted to go into game development as a career. And then I thought about it for about 2 months straight, and I thought about it as hard as I could. And I realized I didn't want to go into game development. I had no interest in coding. I had no interest in art design or game mechanics. I had interest in mechanics, but not game mechanics. I had interest in making characters, but I have no interest in coding characters or drawing characters or designing. No, I had an interest in writing characters. I had an interest in writing worlds and stories and writing mechanics for those worlds and stories. And I realized that's what I wanted to do. And from that inkling, from that beginning, from the start point, I originally, before that, thought I wanted to be a SWAT policeman. And that eventually led to game design. And that eventually led to writing, and that eventually, narrowed itself further and further into where I'm doing now. And it all started with being a SWAT policeman. And do you know why? Because I thought, well, I want to help people, and I want to challenge myself, and I want to be challenged by others. And I eventually picked a job that would do that. I picked a job that I could help people through, that challenges me, and I can be challenged by others. That there is no end goal, there is no be-all, end-all. There's just striving towards the future. That's what my criteria was. And I figured that out. I figured out what my criteria was, and I found out what I could do in that criteria that would bring me the most joy. Sometimes you need to figure out criteria. Sometimes you need to figure out what you want to do. Sometimes you need to figure out all the little intricacies and all the small things. And sometimes you just don't yet know. Sometimes you might have been doing something for years and think of it as only a hobby. Maybe that birdhouse you made. Maybe that metal sheet that you melted and made into an object. Maybe just that one random event you did when you were younger with one of your friends. You went out to an amusement park and you ended up throwing a baseball through some glass bottles. Maybe something as small as that can be the thing that links you to what you want to do. And just once you find what you want to do, don't let anything stop you, because you can do it. You can make a living out of anything. Anything you want, you can make a living out of, and you can become. You can do anything you set your mind to. You just have to try.